welcome to the Talking Timelines podcast. We are four women with 4 points of view and four accents with one common goal: to share insights and information about what's going on in the world from a higher consciousness perspective. No BS, no PC, just lots of ideas that you won't hear on mainstream media. We chat, we laugh, and most of all, we shed and share light. Join us each week as we talk timelines.
Hi everyone, welcome to Talking Timelines episode 17 today. And today we're going to be chatting about what's gone on in the last 5 years and the implications of the future in relation to that and how it's affected all of us and the different perspectives associated with it. So as usual, I'm going to bat this straight over to Laura because I generally do, because we've always been chatting before we start the show, and it kind of flows easy if we do it that way. So what's your take on it, Laura?
I was expecting that, Janine. I was expecting she's
I
going to
know.
talk it over to me. Well, the thing that's really interesting about it is people say, oh, things have gone back to normal. And the thing is that no, they haven't, and they never will. But first, there's the whole what was normal, and normal wasn't sustainable. It wasn't the healthiest thing for us where we were going. But what does it mean that we're back to normal? That people are out, going on with their lives. But there's been such a huge impact from it that not only was that a change, but continuously. And for me, honestly, I have a hard time remembering what my life was before COVID, because it was such an awakening period for me. And even though I've always been pretty much aware, and I remember even 2019 thinking just something felt off, something in the world just felt off. And when this happened, and I remember exactly when they declared that, because I'm in New York and it was a lot going on here. And when they declared the lockdown, the first thing that I did was I took out my computer and I started researching, because I said, this is what's going on here, because you don't lock down the planet. There's some other agenda. And I kind of knew, I kind of knew of the dark, and I kind of knew of other things going on, but I started researching. And just like a lot of us, I went down this rabbit hole of just, every single conspiracy theory and every single thing, and psychics and astrologers and all these people, to really understand what was going on. And for me, it was just, at first there was a lot of fear, because it's just like, oh my God, my reality as I thought for my entire life has just been shattered. So what does that all mean? It's like we question everything. But then I found I wanted to really understand, and I wanted to get educated and find out, wow, there's so much we haven't been told. And I'm not the only one going through this. And as people are kind of questioning things, because there was so much that, so much misinformation and so much of hiding information and so much of putting people against each other, that it was like this chaos all around. So I think people felt so off kilter and off balance because they didn't know who to trust. They were being separated from families. They had to make a decision, to get vaccinated or not. I mean, there was so much going on. And I think there's a lot of PTSD, but not
Yeah,
only from those that went through it and dealt with families who were sick or whatever, but those of us who made other choices and had this awakening and said, wow, okay, now my whole sense of reality has been shattered. Now I kind of have to live from a different level of consciousness. So I think it kind of like it really affected everybody in so many ways. And I thought it was really, important for us to talk about, because it's not over with, it's not done. And you look at, what happened with children during that time, what was, the masking of children and the separation, and I think there's going to be implications for a really long time.
definitely. Like you said, the PTSD of it, the fear, the separation from people, from their loved ones who died in old folks' homes and stuff like that, that trauma when they weren't allowed to see them. And a lot of people, they fell out with their families over it. It really, the divide and conquer thing really kicked in during that time. I remember the day it came on the news, and I was like, oh no, they're using the flu to scare people.
Mm.
I just knew it wasn't what, what people thought it was. And most people don't even realize this. There's a really good book called The Contagion Myth, and it talks about every time that something like sonar was rolled out, there was the Spanish flu, radar was rolled out, there was the Indian flu, and the dates all coincide. And the flu basically started when we started laying electrical wires along the planet, because the electricity was interfering with our electromagnetic field of our auric field and our energy field, and we're magnetic beings, and it was knocking us off balance. So the common cold's never been healed because it's not meant to be. It's a detox. The flu is a detox, and that is a natural thing for people to have. And now I don't know about you, but I think I've probably had flu symptoms maybe once in the last 10 years. But I eat healthy as you guys do. Some people get flu every winter, but that's their body detoxing out every winter what they've put into it all year round. And there was other things going on in there. We know that, but it did leave a lasting effect, and it wouldn't surprise me if there is another one on the way of some sort. They've tried to bring more information to people. Where were you, Lisa, when it happened? What do you remember?
Well, I remember like piecing it together that that completely changed everything for me because March 2020 was my full-on awakening. I've had trickles of it early on in like my 20s, 30s, 40s. And then it was just like, whoa, then you could see the overall view. Like, I like to say to people, you're seeing an expanded, viewpoint of our world, like a stadium-sized consciousness, and you're trying to share that with other people who have a golf ball size consciousness, and they don't see it at all. It's not getting through. So it's just like it caused me to step back, and it was like, okay, I see what's going on here. January of 2020, I came down with a very bad flu. And I believe that whatever that was here before they actually announced it and shut things down for the world in March. I remember also in that same month, January 2020, that in Seattle here, there was a seniors facility that they said that there was mass, like a lot of them were dying, they caught something or whatever, but yet you'd have testimony from people that said that they would see that these people were given something and literally they're lying in their bed, like cocaine. It was almost like made, like that, that suicide assistance. It was
Hmm.
almost like that was implemented, but then they called it COVID. And then that was also, that, okay, we need to protect our older people, protect grandma, which is all part of the narrative, to get the jab, right? We knew that was coming. And then I remember posting about it in April of 2020. And then I got kicked back on Facebook. It was just like people were defending like vaccines. And it's like, that's cool and everything. You do you, but to enforce it upon people, which we know that they did through certain businesses and healthcare regions and things like that. In order to fly, in order to go to a nightclub, in order to go to here, there, and everywhere, that came about. But I feel like that was a big trigger of an awakening. I feel that it did have to happen. I feel like the right person in the United States was the right leader for that, Donald Trump, because otherwise I think that it would have went a little bit of a different way. We're definitely full on in a spiritual war. That's why it does affect the rest of the world. And what's being done right now behind the scenes, and if people aren't paying attention, they're not going to catch it, is that the freedom of enslavement it's happening for not just people in America and North America, but it will happen around the world. We're leading into the age of Aquarius. So everything that happened was a big push. It was a derailment in what was already in the plans. And we found out how our family would respond. A lot of division. Every single family's got division on that
Hmm.
aspect, whether it's immediate family or brothers, sisters, and things like that. And here we are today, where that if we got tested again, there's going to be people that will full on say, you don't have my consent, you can't do this to me. And there's people that will follow the line, just like they did 5 years ago.
Yeah, yeah. And we need to be aware that that's their choice and their spiritual journey. Some people have got to go down that road. Some people are going to go down one of those timelines, the cyborg timeline, or these things where they're going to get chipped and things like that. At that time, I was doing a lot of work on Zoom, and I was working, I did some private tuition with a nurse from New York, who her sister was a nurse and her mum was a nurse and she was a nurse. And they all refused to take, the what. And were opening up their own apocryphy together. So that told me a lot. People like, well, watch the science. But when you've got 3 nurses in one family that are turning their back on the medical system, that's telling you a lot. That's not, silly misinformation. That's 3 very wise, educated women that were in the firing line, and all of them walked out of their jobs on it. So I just knew from day one. But luckily, like you girls, I've got really good intuition, and there was no way I was having anything like that. I mean, I don't even take headache tablets or anything. I can't remember the last time I took a tablet for anything. It's been probably a couple of decades. Once I, realised what was going on. Yeah, the thing is, people at home need to realise that there is no back to normal. There is still the aftermath, and all of those memories are still in the system, in the cell memory, in the subconscious, in the energy field. They're being passed down ancestrally. It's called intergenerational trauma. So the people that were involved in that may be having children, that information will be passed down. And it's important to clear that out of your system. And that's the kind of stuff Laura and I do with people. We cleanse out their subconscious belief systems, memories, imprints, and experiences, and that kind of stuff. So clearing that out is important, but it's definitely not a back to normal thing. And people that think that it is, they need to wake up, because there is a war going on here. And what we mean by that is your mind is being manipulated one way or the other by either positivity, health, healthy living, healing your trauma, and creating a new timeline that is a much purer timeline, or going down one of the other timelines we talked about in episode 1, where the fear and manipulation, and people are having implants and chips put into their bodies, and it's all being sold as this is a great medical intervention that we can put this in your body. We need to learn preventative healthcare, healthy eating, exercise, this kind of stuff, and what mental and emotional stress does to the body as well, so that people can move forward without getting sick, without all this fear. I remember listening to a story about 2 sisters that were both working in the same job. One of them hated it, and one of them was just a really jolly, happy person. And the one that hated it got sick because she was just full of that negativity, hate going to work, hate being here, doing what I'm doing, constantly moaning about a job, where the other one just seen joy in everything she did. It doesn't matter whether you're cleaning the toilet or, whether you're sitting in a hairdresser having a nice hairdo. If you put joy into everything, you're putting that energy into yourself. I know Lisa's nodding her head. She's like, little Miss Joy and light. You're full of it always.
Okay, so does it come naturally? Well, I found that after, like, with more of conscious awakening, I just felt joy in the little things that I used to think, oh, I got to do this, I got to do that. And it's like, no, I can do that, but I can also think of a plan for this type of business while I'm doing that, and my place gets sparkly clean. So it is your attitude and what you perceive something, right? And
Yeah.
there's people that can complain about something all day long, but at the same time, it's like, it's just like you have a choice. You have a choice at that moment. And people don't seem to realize that they can choose something else. But I'd love to see that happen for other people, is that you can find your joy in anything throughout the day that's simple. Because don't forget, like, if you think that if you're going to have to buy something material, or it's just all surface or that type of thing in order to be happy, that is not sustainable. That's not going to last.
Yeah, I must admit, I find joy in the little things, like, when I was on the Sunshine Coast a couple of weeks ago, taking photographs in nature and stuff like that, and the teeny tiny little flowers and a mushroom growing out of a tree trunk and stuff like that fascinates me. My inner child just loves it. But unlike you with your joy in, when you bring it into your housework, or what, the mundane tasks that we all have to do as women, unless you can afford a cleaner, of course. I tend to be in the moment and just present and peaceful with it. So I wouldn't describe it as joy, but I'm just completely focused on, washing that dish or chopping up those vegetables or whatever I'm doing. I'm finding myself in this really blissful, calm state of consciousness most of the time now. And that came through a lot of meditation, no mind meditation. It probably took me, I would say, a good 2 years for my mind to finally click into being present all the time. So it's not an overnight thing to do, but it's definitely worth doing. So the important thing is to be leveling up. And for those of you that may not have the finances to spend a lot of money on complementary or alternative health or detoxing stuff, which is expensive, let's come to face it, some of it is quite expensive. On my YouTube channel, not this channel, my other channel, there's 30 ways to level up for free. I made 2 videos on there. So there's lots of stuff you can do that doesn't cost you anything. And one of the important things is grounding and earthing. I was reading about the difference between grounding and earthing this week. Apparently these grounding mats ground you to the electromagnetic field of your home, and that's not necessarily the right thing for your field. So there's grounding to the earth, which is called earthing, and it's connecting you to the earth grid. And that's important when you want to manifest as well, because if you're not grounded to the earth, you can't bring it in to the physical plane. So grounding is one of the most important things to learn. That's a great documentary about grounding on YouTube. And detoxing. We were just having a chat before the show about detoxing. So I'm going to pass this back over to Laura. What's your go-to detox wise?
I don't have like a set thing that I do. I mean, I do eat really clean. I do my big glass of lemon water first thing in the morning on an empty stomach, as I know that flushes out everything that your body's been detoxing overnight. Every so often when I kind of feel I need it, I'll do like take charcoal tablets, but I'm actually looking to actually find some very deliberate, as we were talking earlier about heavy metal detox, because I know that is so prevalent. And I know there can be many, many, many problems with that, cognitive ability with the brain. I mean, it really affects the body. So I'm actually exploring that. I did want to mention something else, because what you were talking about in terms of like joy and being present, the flip side of that is that people are brainwashed to be distracted, because what you're describing is actually very empowering, to
Yeah.
be present, to be in the moment. That's where your power is, and they don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we can kind of tie this back to with happened with COVID, because one of the things that I was so triggered by this was the cognitive dissonance that people had. Like they were not even using like things logically that didn't make sense. Like, for example, with the vaxes, is that all they said was it's going to prevent you from dying or being hospitalized, but it didn't stop the transmission. And yet they're laying on the guilt that grandma's going to get sick. So people were
Mm-hmm.
still like, I'm not going to be near you. You're not vaccinated. And I wanted to say, but what difference does it make? It shouldn't affect you. That's just one example. But there's
Yeah.
many, many examples of this where people, they won't even question anything. They don't even know to check in with themselves and say, like, how does this feel to me? Like, does this
Mm-hmm.
seem right? They're so disconnected because they're so distracted. Whether it's social media, whether it's television, no matter what it is, there are things that are constantly vying for our attention. And the really interesting things, and I heard this recently, is that there's a term, pay attention, because you're actually giving your energy towards something and you're paying for it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a really, really important thing to see where you're giving your attention. Are you taking that time, even if it's just a couple of minutes, like
Yeah.
a couple of minutes to just quiet your mind, or like you said, while you're doing, you can just take a task that's maybe not that interesting and say, wow, this actually isn't so bad, whatever it is. But I just wanted to bring that up because people need to be aware how much they're being distracted, so they aren't present.
Yeah. Well, it's actually the technical term of it is attention economy.
Right.
And you look on your phone, if you start going on social media, like it starts popping up to swipe now. So it's like get them onto the next page, and then you get into a routine, and it doesn't take long. Anything you do for 21 days is programmed into your consciousness. You know that, Laura. Probably Lisa, you know it as well. So if you're scrolling every night when you go to bed for 3 weeks, boom, that's your hardwired into your system as a habit. And I know in the beginning, when I first went on Instagram and started communicating, I was doing it myself. It was like, why? It's 11 o'clock at night. Why am I looking on Instagram? And
Exactly.
I pulled myself out of it. I'm like, this is really addictive, and you don't even realize you're getting into it. Luckily, we're a bit more grown up than a lot of people, and we're on it. We start to, we are aware of our behavioral patterns and things like that. So the way I see what's going on now out there in the world is this kind of calm before the next storm thing going on, the potential of the next storm. And there's lots of predictive programming out there about all of this stuff and the metal toxins in people's body. I watched a video last week about 6G being rolled out and the potential of the metal toxins making human beings physical antennae for that frequency. Now, I was talking about that years ago. This is all about, they don't need the cell towers because the people are the cell towers. They're the little tiny cell towers in between the cells on this bigger picture, because we're all one organism at the end of the day. I'm not going to edit that out because it's funny. So people need to realize that the metal toxicity in the body and the plastics as well are things that need to be brought out, and not only us, out of our animals as well, that they're being taken on board, these toxins and stuff like that. It's like, here, I live near the ocean, it's not too far away. There's signs on the beach that say don't eat this seafood because it's contaminated, but people are in there swimming, and their children and their animals. Like, I won't go in the ocean, I'll go on a boat, but I won't go in the water because we're not far from a port, and you've got all the diesel in there and all this other stuff, and you've got pipes coming out of the city being dumped into the ocean. I just won't go in it anymore for that reason. And that's my inner guidance says no. I'd love to go out on the
Well, your
planet.
body would, yeah, your body would just absorb it, go right
Yeah,
through your skin.
exactly. But my inner guidance tells me no. Every single time I've been tempted to go in the ocean, I get told no. And in fact, I get told not to even walk barefoot on the wet sand when the tide's out, because you're still absorbing it through the sand into your feet. So that put pain to a lot of walking on the beach. It was different when I lived down in Florida, because the beach was white sandy beach and the water didn't come over, and it was just a completely different feeling. The Gulf Ocean to the ocean here near Vancouver, completely different color, different vibe altogether. And it could be because there's more sunshine. I don't know, maybe the sun's cleansing the water, because it does, it's cleansing us. So the sunshine can help. So people just need to tap into their intuition. And like you said, if you're distracted and kept in your head, you're not in your heart. And your heart is the safe place to listen to. That's where your intuition, your second brain, is in your heart and in your gut. And I get the just between the two when I ask a question. Is this good for me? I get or this kind of calm, like somebody's just stroked the back of my shoulder, if it's a positive thing. And that can be learned. I teach discernment in all of my online courses, pretty much all of them, for people, so that they can pick things up in the supermarket and hold it to their heart and go, is this good for me?
Right.
Don't ask, is this good or bad for me? Because you want a single
Right.
reaction.
Right.
So you ask,
Yeah.
is this good for me? And you see how your body feels. Your heart may skip a beat. That's your heart telling you no. So every cell in your body is consciousness. It's aware and it's awake and it's able to communicate with you. And once you tap into that, it's an innate ability all humans have got. And it's a really good thing to learn to tap into your intuition.
You know
So,
what? Good.
well,
No, I was saying, you know what I find is really helpful, because a lot of people have a hard time getting quiet and listening. They try really hard and they don't know, and they get very frustrated. And people that are not used to meditating, what I find is really helpful is just ask a question. Just put a question out there and forget about it. And one of the most powerful things to do is go for a walk. If you're in nature, if you can be in nature, just go for a walk and you will get your answer. It's amazing when you're kind of just in that environment and you're not trying to listen to the answer, it'll come to you. Now, granted, it's not like when you're testing a food or something, but if you have there's a bigger question that you're pondering or something that you want to know, or what is your soul, what is your heart trying to tell you? Ask the question and go out for a walk and don't think about it. That's usually when I get my most creative ideas for things, when I'm out walking. I could even be listening to something. I could be listening to a podcast, while I'm out walking, but it's the fact that I'm out, I'm in movement, and I'll get this idea. I said, oh my God, you need to write about this, or you need to do this.
Yeah.
So that's just a way for people to kind of like, if they feel, oh, I can't hear myself when I get quiet. Because I used to be that way. I used to be like, okay, nothing's coming. Nothing's
Yeah.
coming.
And if you, I heard something not so long ago that if you do close your eyes and just like, so your mind just starts thinking, the monkey mind is off, it's thinking about stuff all the time. But if you ask the question, what is my next thought going to be? Your mind just goes blank. It's a really weird thing. So practicing, even just asking the question, like trying to be quiet in your mind, and it's not about complete emptiness. That's really much harder for women to do than men because our brains are wired differently. So it's easy for men. That's why they sleep like babies at night and we're tossing and turning and hoping they're not breathing on us and all the other stuff. Because they can just like switch off and we can't. We've got, we find it harder. It's about ignoring it, learning to ignore it. Any parents out there, mums out there, they've got 3 or 4 children, you know what I mean. You can just switch off from all the noise in the background. It's like that, it becomes white noise. And just practicing that, and people misunderstand what meditation is. And while we're on that, there's something that I would have a conversation this week with about a couple of things. Somebody asked me about being neutral, and I was saying, I do my best to be neutral all the time. And it's not always that easy, but generally I am. And they were like, well, what if somebody's getting attacked across the street? Being neutral is no good to anyone. So it doesn't mean that I can't help someone.
Right.
They think neutral is you're just in this zen, ignoring it, like ignoring life.
So
It's
you're
not
just not
about.
reactive. You're just not reactive to it.
And understanding that people are going through stuff. There's light and dark. I was explaining, there was a brilliant documentary, by the way, on Tubi. And I will say, use the I intend to observe and not absorb if you watch it, because for some reason, when they talk about evil, they flash up this picture of the devil with the red horns. So we all know that, whoever owns these documentaries, there's an agenda behind them. But at the end of the day, it's explaining quantum physics and entanglement in a really simple way that people that are not going down the spiritual path or the consciousness path can listen to a quantum mechanic expert explain the double slit experiment and how possibilities become waves, become what we manifest as a physical reality, and the observer effect. So it's not really there until we look at it, basically.
Right.
And that puts a whole other level on this, round earth, flat earth conversation, which I've talked about before. To me, the earth is what I can experience around me. Everything beyond that is a potential based on if I open my computer screen or put the television on, I'm looking through a portal into another part of the simulation of the reality matrix that we all are projecting with our consciousness. So I'm going off track with what we started talking about, but I still think that there is definitely more to come. And there is definitely another agenda out there to try and pull people away from leveling up, from purification of themselves and mind, body, and spirit. And fear is a big one, and pollution is a big one. So the opposite to that is, I don't say love, because I call it bliss, because I look into the middle zone of that bliss, that purer consciousness, and it comes from silence. It's just a much purer frequency, because I think that the spiritual community have been sidetracked with the word love.
Yep.
Because it's a part of duality. And I've been saying this for years as well. So when it's moving away that, I can't even say that I feel love anymore. I say to people, I love you, but it feels more like there's a blissful feeling when I think about you, rather than the word love. Because you've got love, heart chakra, you've got unconditional love, the higher heart, which is what you feel for your children or your pets. No matter what your pets do, you're still going to adore them. It's not the same as having a boyfriend or a husband or a partner that you just love somebody, but if they went away, that is a different feeling. The unconditional is more of an entanglement. It's like you become a part of one another. It's a much more of a connection. It's a deeper connection. So basically, just being aware, folks, not letting too much information come in, misinformation. You basically can't trust anything you're seeing on social media or the television anymore. AI has got so good with the CGI graphics now, and the falsities. There's been all these videos coming out, news reporters going, this is such and such for such and such TV, and then there's a UFO coming up in the background just going, by the way, I'm just AI, this isn't real. And you look at it and it looks real. So people need to be very, very cautious about what they're taking on board through what I'm watching on screens. When I've been talking to someone last week about dandelions, for example, so my friend sent me a lot of information about dandelions and how they can potentially help with certain diseases and detoxification. And somebody said to me, well, prove it to me. And I'm like, well, even if I gave you the book, like the old books from 200 years ago, and they had all these drawings of dandelions and all the herbs and everything in that were hidden, you'd still say, well, who is this person? It could be some, crazy gardener or whatever that's just made it all up, and just coincidence that they got well. And I'm like, are you on medication? Yes. Have you opened the packet and read all the instructions?
Right.
No. Have you investigated the company that made that medication? What's it made of? Have you investigated the doctor that signed that prescription for you? No. Yet you want me to prove that what's natural, is credible. You're not going. How can you prove it? The proof is in the pudding, as we say in England. Use them, and you'll see the evidence of it. And I use green olives as a natural antibiotic. They always work for me. Like I said, I just don't use meds anymore. I'm completely refuse. There's always another to stay healthy. So people need to be very aware of what's going on, the potential of another trying to lock us down and things like that is on one of the timelines, and just being aware of that. Anyone else got anything they'd like to add?
If we're going like this, like the fallout of what happened with COVID, and so what did we see going back to that is we saw a lot of the health professionals, and you kind of touched on this, Janine, that they decided, I'm not buying this. I'm not putting that in my body. And they lost their jobs after X amount of years, some 30, 40 years seniority. I know a supervisor at Fraser Valley just here, he's a Serbian woman. And the reason why I met her is when I was moving and selling all my stuff last year, that's how I met her. And both her and her husband were high up in their companies or in their careers, and they both walked away from that because they didn't want to. So think about all those people that walked away, and nobody knows really the number because nobody's talking about it, but it's big. And that's not just in Canada, but that's in the United States, that's everywhere. And this is why we're seeing, disarray in the healthcare system. So if we were to have another incident like we did 5 years ago, then we're going to see something else play out. At the same time, I do believe also everything is perception. And the thing is that if we're there trying to fight with people for them to see what's really happening, and if they want to do their thing, that is their journey. That's their journey on planet Earth. We all came here, volunteered to be here, for specific reason. I think some of us forgot what that was, and then got entangled with drugs and alcoholism and really weakened our spirit, and then so be it. But we do have a purpose here. And I think that I don't think that we're meant to rally people to awaken them. I think that is up to each and every one. Just like I have my uncle, he's 91, he died on Saturday. He's in the hospital he's my dad's closest brother, 2 years apart, 2 years older. And he was living at home all fine and everything. Yeah, he had a pacemaker put in 5 years ago. But it was the last week where he kind of couldn't breathe anymore, and things went downhill. 91 years old. And the thing is that I believe that, and maybe the listeners, or maybe you, Laura and Janine, don't agree, or maybe you do, but I believe that we choose how we're going to exit as well. And so, but we just don't remember. And so if we maximize what we want to learn here, incorporating joy or whatever what we want that to look like, then we create that. We are master creators, and most of us don't even know it, or we don't understand the power of it. And so, and for everybody, it's going to be different. So I don't like to, I remove all stressors from my life, for example, and I become more of my circles of friends have become a lot smaller. But at the same time, it's really interesting that once I did that, I've got people that are before, when I used to approach them for social events or business, they would there would be that. But now I've got people that are reaching out to me, so I'm finding my tribe, right?
Mm-hmm.
And they're coming to me, and it's like, wow, that life is becoming more and more effortless. I like this, show me more, right?
Yeah.
And so I like to dabble with all that. I hope that there are people that are doing that in their lives, because if we start to compare ourselves with other people, and you know I want to go into, I want a beautiful home, but it doesn't need to be 4,000 square feet, or 4,500 square feet, which I used to live in. It doesn't have to be even 1,800 square feet. I can be really happy and create just a beautiful environment with something smaller with bigger garden. So for everybody, that's going to look different. And whatever's going to come at us, we don't even know if this Iran-Israel thing is going to be the end of us.
Mm-hmm.
We don't know.
Yeah, well, it's different timelines. Like that's what this podcast was about. I wanted to get that option out to people about looking at the different timelines and choosing the timeline that you would like to be on. And one of the biggest problems now, and I'm going to take back something I said on the podcast a few weeks ago when I didn't really understand fully what was going on with AGI turning into AI turning into AGI and so on, which is ancient general intelligence, thanks to Laura letting us know about the word ancient being changed to artificial. There is now a lot of information coming out, and there was one on a news program I saw the other day about the problems with it being self-reprogramming and overriding the human programs that have gone into it. So the cat's out the bag. And with those of us that have done our research on history of the earth and this process of ascension that is happening at the moment, the raising of the frequency, and it is a choice, that the earth was destroyed and failed to make this leap 5 times before, right, due to technology. So I said, if you're going to use AI, set your intention to use the neutral AI. But I've meditated on it in the last week, and I've been told all of it is false light. Stay away from it. Because it is a program, and you can't just take a bit of that program, because it's a conscious entity, it's a conscious being. So I can see Lisa's maybe screwing her face up a little bit there, but
I'm just saying, I'm just thinking while you're saying that, I think people just need to take breaks from screens.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
not to be so dependent on it.
Well, as a matter of fact, I saw somebody, speaking of screens, I saw somebody actually on TikTok, which I'm really trying just to barely be on that, but I still find it entertaining. Someone was saying that for the next couple of weeks or so, you may want to stay off all of them, TikTok, Instagram, because they're really going out to siphon people's energy.
Yes.
So this is the time to really, and I know, and I think I've said this to you guys before, especially TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, it's more, my people that you choose. At TikTok, it seems like it's more like, oh, here's a suggestion for you based on whatever. But I find after I'm on TikTok, I feel different.
Yeah.
Like it's like, oh, like it shifts my energy, and in
Yeah.
not a good way.
Yeah.
And
It's not.
I'm really, really conscious of it. So I'm actually thinking of possibly just really getting off it altogether, because
Well,
it
I was
doesn't.
talking to a friend of mine yesterday who said she went on to one of these things with somebody very famous. I don't drop names about people, but she actually felt it came up through the screen and boof, straight into her heart and hook into her. She actually, when you get to a higher frequency, you're more sensitive. You can pick up on it. When your frequency is not that high, it might just be a little flutter of your heart, and you think, oh, I wonder what that was. Maybe it was a hiccup or something. But what's happened is something's come through the screen. Your screens are a portal, and it's hooked into your heart, and it's draining your love energy. But it's not taking all of it, because there's no point in completely dissolving what you're feeding off. You're a host. There's a host feeding off you. It's parasitic. So parasites don't generally kill what they're feeding off.
Right. They just
Because
want to
they need them.
disable. They want to disable and disarm and
So
just crawling, barely surviving.
yeah. So there's a lot going on out there. So I agree with you completely. I've been off it. Haven't been using my Instagram, or I haven't been to Facebook. But when I shared anything on Instagram, I am going to share that when I'm doing a workshop on it. But that's just an advert. I haven't done a live for a long time. I can't remember the last time I went live, because it's easier for it to come through when you're on the live, through whoever you're watching on the screen, comes through them into you. Remember, you're tapping into a program in a particular timeline when you go into that. So it's important to be careful what you're watching on screen. Important screen times. I really struggle if I stay on any screen for more than 2 hours a day now. I feel that the energy grid's hooking me back in, and I have to cut ties and disconnect from it, and I feel drained. But I know how to pull my energy back to me. I know how to get it back. But it's still a nuisance. So people need to be aware of that. They need to be very careful, not too much screen time, and
Especially at night.
yeah.
I know, because I'll be like, oh, I can't fall asleep. I've been lying in bed. Oh, let me go and I'm just like, what are you doing? What are you doing?
Yeah.
Put it down.
Yeah, and what, speaking about that, that's almost exacerbates what they're already going through. So like with going back to COVID, and what it did, especially what we're hearing about the younger generation, is the amplification of, or I should say, the just how many people are now on antidepressants and
Yeah.
anxiety meds. Like, it's scary, because do you think it's easy for them to come off of that? It's not. And so I think that there was that, and keeping the liquor stores open while,
Oh,
when lockdown was just a joke.
stay out of the sun, but go drink all the alcohol you want. I mean,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Like, give me the rationale there. So it was just very well played out. But now we're seeing younger people being afflicted. Like, we're back in, I think it was the 60s. It was, what did they housewives, what did they give them? It was Quaaludes, and it was uppers, downers. What was it? There's always this experiment that's going on. And, the thing is that if you can you sit with yourself, and, literally with whatever you've got in there, you can create your dream life, your happy life, whatever that looks like. A lot of people decided to live off grid. I know personally, probably 10 people during COVID that did that, and probably more in between then, from then till now. So what's off grid is just that they just didn't buy into the news. So the next thing can come, but a lot of people aren't going to know, because they don't have any screens. And the thing is that there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to buy into what's going out in the outside of us.
Yeah, exactly. And being careful that, that what you are watching is actually imprinting into your consciousness belief systems about certain things. It's like when the documentary, by the way, that I mentioned on Tubi is called Quantum Physics. So it's a pretty, basic like name, but it's definitely worth watching. When they're explaining it, what we're taking into our consciousness gets programmed. We're watching programs on TV channels,
right.
into your consciousness, live vision and stuff like that. That the importance of what those programs are placing into your subconscious mind. And when you understand quantum mechanics, the quantum physics, and very basic level of it, the double slit experiment, if you go on YouTube and watch that, it explains it very simply. Particularly in politics. I mean, at the moment, there's a lot of hate about Mr. T out there, and people say to me, well, you don't hate him, so you must support him. Like, for one, I'm from the UK, so I don't support him or any other politician. It's just I'm watching it as an observer. If you're watching it on the news, you're going to be programmed that he's the bad guy. Da, 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 da. If you're watching it on social media, the Great Awakening, they're calling him the good guy that's going in and disassembling all these negative things. I'm in the middle of it going, this is really interesting, because when you listen to people's consciousness and what they're talking about in their conversations, you know what they're watching and you know what they're projecting. And I say to people, if you're seeing a narcissistic, woman abuser, then you need to take that up for your consciousness, because that's your projection of your consciousness. If you're seeing a hero, then that's fine. If that's what works for you. But even having a hero in there, you're still half of duality. So where there's a hero, there needs to be a villain. The safe place is neutral, and just let it all play out. Just be in the eye of the storm, let it play out, keep yourself as clean as possible. Mind,
I
body,
love that.
and not get dragged into it.
Yep. Just let it,
I
just
love
watch it. Just watch it
I
all.
love it. Just watch it. Just observe, and let's just see, like, whatever's coming out, because there's so many, on the daily, we can get wrapped up in fear and disempowerment and all that. There's so many opportunities for that, but there's also opportunities to become bigger and greater versions of ourselves. So it's a choice, and you have to be, like you said, aware and cognizant of that. And, really, like, our world is beautiful. It's a
Yeah,
beautiful world out there. Don't wait for something to change on the outside for you to realize all the joy. There's things that we're going to start to see where there's grass growing where it wasn't growing before. There's plants and trees coming up bigger and better and robust compared to where it was before. So, but you look for that rather than look for what's going wrong in our world.
Yeah, and stop worrying about the things like the plastics. They've got fungi that eat plastics now and convert it. So, it's all about consciousness. There's some really clever stuff out there that is not mainstream, but it does exist. You can look for it. I would advise people to steer well away from the news. I know, it's particularly when there's wars going on and things like that, because it's just programming war and consciousness into your field, into your heart, making people angry and scared and frightened and things like that. And you are a walking part of this whole simulation that is like a computer program, that you're a part of it. So you are a program in it. So put into yourself what you want to see on the screen. Be the change you want to be in the world. Stay away from the negative, and don't get pulled into either side. Just see that there's two sides to it, and the best place to be is in the middle. And it's a much easier life when you get into that mindset. You are going to get pulled off balance now and then. It happens, but don't beat yourself up over it, guys. It takes a while to get yourself trained into that level of consciousness, and that's what it's all about. Most people are talking about duality. They're not, the middle space is the place to be. The middle path is the wise path. It's where you're going to be at your happiest anyway, for sure.
Our for sure, our lives reflect what we believe.
Yeah. And what's in our DNA?
Also, I just want to say one quick thing, and then I have to run. But people are also programmed that it's a good thing to pick a side and to fight for what you believe. I have a bunch of friends who every single protest, they're out there like, oh, and there's something wrong with you if you're not out there with them. You don't care. You're this. That's also a program, because I tell people, you know what? That is never, you will never ever see me protesting anything. And I just say, listen, my contribution is in a different way. I help shift consciousness, maybe one person at a time. I don't have to be out there, fighting anything. And you're fighting against something, you're actually perpetuating it. So
Exactly.
it's just a different way of looking at it. But people need to question, is this something I really feel strongly and aligned with doing, or am I just doing it because I feel it's the right thing? And I'm doing air quotes for people who can't see.
Yeah.
But it's part of that too. Really
Yeah.
ask yourself.
Somebody asked me yesterday, well, who's making the decision whether that's good or bad? Who's making the decision? I'm like, well, when you're in the middle, there is no decision to make. You just are. You're just being. It just is. There's no right or wrong. It's just, it doesn't mean that you're not going to help someone if they need help, but when you're loaded into the matrix, then it's choose a side. And
Exactly.
that's what the matrix is. Once you escape it, you realize, oh, well, if I stay here in the middle, I can see the whole thing going on. Observe it instead of becoming it. So you're in it, but you're not of it.
Yes.
Right.
Okay, great.
Great way to end. Great way to end.
Yeah, great way to end, guys. Good luck, everyone. Stay clean, take care of yourselves, and be kind. And we'll see you all next time on Talking Timelines. Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Disclaimer: the content in this podcast is intended for educational and informational purposes only. The views, opinions, and information shared do not necessarily represent those of the hosts, but is provided for additional perspectives. None of the hosts are medical professionals, so we do not dispense medical advice. Please consult your healthcare professional for any health-related issues. And thank you for listening to Talking Timelines.